Hello, you're tuning into the VTV News live from Hanoi. I'm Hoài Lương, and here are the headlines for this hour. Vice President meets with Francophone Secretary General in Paris. The first artificial heart device transplant in Vietnam. And Vietnamese and Swedish artists joined hand in experimental concert. Now, on the sidelines of the ongoing 24th Global Summit of Women in Paris, France, Vice President Nguyễn Thị Doan held a meeting with Abdou Diouf, Secretary General of the International Francophone Organization. At the meeting, she affirmed that Vietnam will actively contribute to the outcome of the upcoming Francophone Summit in November. She also praised the efforts of the Francophone Organization in conflict resolution and solving disputes through peaceful means in accordance with international laws. She also talks about the current situation in the EC and Vietnam's consistent policy to resolve this conflict through peaceful means. For his part, Abdou Diouf appreciated Vietnam's contribution in various fields of the French community. He further affirmed that Vietnam will always have the Francophone support regarding the EC issue. A meeting was held this morning in the northern port city of Hải Phòng to mark the 2014 Vietnam Sea and Islands Week as well as the World Oceans Day. Speaking at the event, Deputy Prime Minister Hoàng Trung Hải stressed the need to expand Vietnam's sea-based economic sector through its overall socio-economic development strategy. The Ministries of Natural Resources and Environment called on organizations and individuals to continue supporting local fishermen to go out to sea and protect the country's sovereignty. Right after the ceremony this morning, a campaign was launched by youth volunteers aimed at cleaning up beaches. This campaign was supplemented by a cycle along the beach fronts to communicate environmental protection issues related to the sea. Update on the current situation in the EC. Yesterday afternoon, 44 Chinese large iron hull fishing vessels, together with 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships, positioned some 42 nautical miles from the illegally placed oil rig Giàn 981. The information was confirmed by the Vietnam television crew embedded aboard a Vietnamese Coast Guard vessel number 4032.
The area is only 110 nautical miles from Vietnam's mainland and belongs to Vietnam's continental shelf, an exclusive economic zone. Over the course of 1 hour, 3 Chinese Coast Guard ships repeatedly approached Vietnam's Coast Guard vessel number 4032, while 5 Chinese iron hull fishing vessels headed straight for it. There were also appearances of Chinese fishing vessels with bulbous bows. These eyewitness testimonies show that the Chinese fishing vessels are capable of causing severe damage should they ram over other vessels. According to the Vietnam Fishing Control Department, the Chinese fishing vessels under the protection of Chinese Coast Guard ships on Friday threw stones and bottles onto Vietnamese boats. Near the area that the oil rig Giàn 981 is illegally placed, Chinese vessels encircled Vietnamese ships and attempted to ram, as well as firing water cannon at them. However, the Vietnamese ships were determined in their duties and reiterated their demand that China remove its oil rig from Vietnam's continental shelf, an exclusive economic zone.
The Vietnamese delegation to the United Nations, World Trade Organization, and other international bodies sent a diplomatic note to their counterparts in Geneva on June the 5th. The message provided an update on developments regarding China's illegal placement of its oil rig and provocative actions in the exclusive economic zone and continental shelf of Vietnam. In a particularly serious escalation on May the 26th, a Chinese vessel committed the heinous act of sinking Vietnamese fishing boat DNA 0 90152, which was operating in its traditional fishing grounds near the Hoàng Sa or Paracel archipelago of Vietnam. The Vietnamese delegation has resolutely rejected the false allegation that China cited in its delegation diplomatic note of June the 2nd. The Vietnamese diplomatic note highlighted the policies and goodwill of Vietnam in pursuing peaceful solutions based on international law and the declaration on the conduct of parties in the EC or DOC with China, as well as other concerned countries. Now, in related news, maritime safety in the EC was a main point of discussion at the Shangri-La dialogue, and China behaved unprofessionally there. There was the statement made by Dr. Eli Ratner, Deputy Director of the Asia-Pacific Security Program at the Center for New American Security. His commentary, articles, and research papers have appeared in Foreign Affairs, Foreign Policy, The Washington Post, The New York Times, and The Wall Street Journal, amongst other notable publications. In the following interview, Dr. Ratner will answer questions regarding the EC issue following the Shangri-La dialogue.
Dr. Ratner, you just come back from Singapore from Shangri-La dialogue. So, from the point of view, how was the territorial dispute in the South China Sea was highlighted in the dialogue?
Well, the territorial disputes clearly dominated the discussion in both the large public plenary session as well as in many of the private discussions as well. So there was limited discussion about North Korea, limited discussion about humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, a little bit of discussion about Russia and Ukraine, but I would say almost all the conversation. Clearly, the United States and Japan are very willing to speak out against Chinese assertiveness. I think every country in the region is very concerned about Chinese assertiveness, and clearly there was universal concern about what China's doing.
At the dialogue, the U.S. Defense Secretary strongly criticized China's destabilizing and unilateral action in the South China Sea. Why the American side was so vocal this time?
At this year's Shangri-La dialogue, I think the U.S. Defense Minister was stronger this year than he has been in the past, but I think that represents a broader shift in U.S. foreign policy and the rhetoric coming out of the Obama administration. I think if you go back probably to about last November, the administration clearly started taking a harder line against China, I think in response primarily to the ADIZ, the Air Defense Identification Zone that China declared over the East China Sea. He had a number of messages in that speech. I think one of the primary messages was about the enduring presence and role of the United States in the region, that the United States was going to continue to play a leadership role in Asia. And I think another one of the important messages was that one of the unique qualities of the United States is the number of alliances and security partnerships that the United States has, including with countries like Vietnam.
Chinese Deputy Chief General Staff fired back at Chuck Hagel, saying that Mr. Chuck Hagel's speech was full of hegemony, full of WhatsApp intimidation and threat. How do you comment on that?
I think very few people outside of China would agree with that statement. I found the Chinese participation at Shangri-La to be unprofessional and not productive to the overall conversation. So I was surprised by things that General Wang was saying, like China has never taken the first step to cause troubles in the South China Sea. I mean, this is pure propaganda. Again, I don't think anyone outside China believes that. So I don't think his speech was taken very seriously, and I took it as that he was speaking to a domestic audience in China and trying to appear tough in front of his colleagues and in front of his government. Throughout the dialogue, the moderator actually had to cut off or try to cut off PLA delegates who were acting very obnoxious and belligerent questions of the presenters, including Secretary of Defense Hagel. There were no other delegates from any country who were doing anything even closely similar. It was very bizarre behavior. It's unimaginable, for instance, or you would just never see that. So the behavior that the Chinese delegation engaged in, I found to be unprofessional and not reflective of a confident and powerful country.
Thank you very much for joining us in this interview. We appreciate it.
Cooperation and sustainable development in the East Sea was the theme of a seminar held yesterday at the Vietnam National University of Hanoi. Academic experts from Vietnam National University gave attendees an informative lecture on the topics of maritime security, mineral potentiality in the East Sea, as well as legal documents on Vietnam's sovereignty over the seas and islands in this area. The ocean, on environmental issues and climate change were also on the agenda. Also on this occasion, Vietnam National University lecturers showcased some items, documents, and new research on Vietnam's sea and island sovereignty, which had been conducted by researchers from Vietnam National University and the University of Social Sciences and Humanities. Many online news publications published a video on Friday showing a Chinese vessel intentionally ramming a Vietnamese fishing vessel. These aggressive and unilateral actions from China have raised international concerns and have cast doubt on China's claims of being committed to building a harmonious Asia and prosperous world. Ignoring international criticism, China has not stopped its aggressive and callous actions that in violation of international laws. In fact, the Chinese media have lied to its people by accusing Vietnamese ships of initiating the violence. Regarding this problem, Vietnam Deputy Defense Minister Nguyễn Chí Vịnh said that the Chinese media is welcome to come on board Vietnamese Coast Guard ships to find out the truth.
Thưa ông là báo chí Trung Quốc gần đây
The Chinese media has accused Vietnamese ships of initiating the violence, intentionally harassing Chinese ships and forcing them to fire water cannon in response. What is your opinion on this statement?
This information is clearly untrue. I don't blame the Chinese media, but the source who fed them this information. If the Chinese media were to witness how the violence happened and learn the truth, I believe they would not publish such information, especially in regard to the violent ship sinking incident in Quảng Ngãi province that involved Chinese civilians. I saw the video of this incident yesterday, and I could not believe my eyes. I don't know what the Chinese on the ship were thinking at the moment when they rammed, flipped, and sunk a small Vietnamese ship and then just sailed away. They didn't even throw the Vietnamese fisherman a lifebuoy. Previously, Vietnamese and international reporters have been on Coast Guard ships to see the area where the oil rig Hai Giang CO 981 is placed. Once again, I'd like to invite Chinese and international reporters on our Coast Guard ships to see this area again. We guarantee their safety and we provide an opportunity for them to freely report and provide comments regarding the issue. I believe in this way the Chinese media will learn the truth. Secondly, I believe Vietnam is capable of responding to the aggressive actions from China's ships, but we didn't, because that would violate Vietnamese ethics and international law, and it would not solve the problem. I also believe that if any Chinese civilian and Chinese ship were to have trouble in this region, the Vietnamese Coast Guard would be there to help them return to safety. Our only purpose is to prevent violence and protecting our sovereignty.
While claiming that they are open to peaceful dialogue and a code of conduct in the East Sea, China is at the same time mobilizing many fishing ships, military vessels and aircraft to violently harass the Vietnamese Coast Guard and fishermen. What do you think about this?
If China keeps claiming one thing and does another, China will become an unreliable country. China's trustworthiness in the eyes of the international community and its neighboring countries will be at risk. More importantly, China's trustworthiness as deemed by its people will be at risk. We hope China will come to peacefully resolve this issue and stop the violence that is unbecoming of their proud tradition.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next, live on VTV News, enterprises cooperate with banking system to get over difficulties. And And in our weekly editions of Culture Watch, Vietnamese and Swedish artists join hands in experimental concert.
Vietnam's varied charms are boundless. They will awaken your senses to astonishing wonder. From sight to sound, from smell to taste, you will be touched in ways you've never thought possible. Vietnam is so charming, one visit is never enough.
You're watching VTV News live from Hanoi. Nearly $5.5 million has been disbursed to support FDI companies in the southern province of Bình Dương after incidents in this province. The compensation is made by the Association of Vietnamese Insurers in collaboration with the Ministries of Finance, showing the efforts of Vietnamese government in implementing supporting solutions to enterprises.
The money disbursed to more than 100 FDI companies in the first stage of compensation claims is estimated to cover 5 to 10% of the total damage to these companies. It also shows that the insurance companies have taken their responsibilities seriously and have helped their customers resume production as soon as possible.
We highly appreciate the active role and timely response of insurance companies in compensating damaged enterprises after these incidents. We call for further support from insurers so that businesses can resume operation as soon as possible.
According to enterprise representatives, money received from insurers will be devoted to resuming the production. Chutex Textile International Company will spend $1 million received on buying new workbenches for laborers, ensuring their wages as well as companies' orders.
We even used the canteen to continue production. The help from insurers combined with our efforts mean we can resume 60% our previous productivity only in 2 weeks and 100% of our operation in 2 months. We will try our best to support our customers and compensate for them in a timely manner and in line with the direction of the government and our customer contracts.
After only 1 month, new constructions have been built. Broken glass, damaged air conditioners, and other items have been replaced by new ones. In addition to these supports, further help from insurance companies will be needed to stabilize their businesses in the coming time.
Currently, the connection between small and medium companies and the banking system is crucially important. This link can offer businesses a capital channel to enhance manufacturing as well as sustain operation in the face of economic downturn. However, not every firm can access bank loans easily. Thus, the program of connecting banks and enterprises, which has been implemented in Thừa Thiên Huế province, is highly rated as an effective measure to deal with the situation.
To promote the program in the area, last month, a conference entitled Dealing with Enterprise Difficulties in Accessing Credit Loans was held in the central province of Thừa Thiên Huế. The conference attracted attendance from many local firms. Addressing the event, representatives from businesses actively shared their views and discussed finding feasible solutions to giving lines of credit to the companies that need them. The aim of the conference was to link government agencies with enterprises and commercial banks.
In supporting the program, the State Bank has directed commercial banks in the region to join hands with local firms to restructure the debt system. At the same time, many preferential loans and credit programs have been adjusted to meet the demand of expanding the manufacturing capacity of enterprises.
Following the conference, the program to link the regional banking system with firms has been deployed. Accordingly, credit organizations are now more active in finding customers and supporting enterprises. More loan package with preferential interest rates are also being offered to local firms. The program has contributed to raising commercial bank responsibility in the community, as well as in sharing the burden of difficulties with enterprises.
The province has created the conditions necessary to launch this program in the region, and last month's conference was a part of that. In the coming time, we'll direct some specific commercial banks to work with enterprises and help them cope with difficulties. Some measures, including releasing new credit loans and adjusting interest rates, will soon be implemented.
Currently, the connection between the government, enterprises and commercial banks can be seen as a key requirement to helping firms operate effectively. When firms and banking systems can share the same view, it will establish fair conditions for further cooperation in the future. The program of connecting banks and enterprises is a measure that could solve many problems currently faced by businesses.
Doctors in the central city of Hue, with the support of their counterparts from the St. Vincent Hospital in Australia, have for the very first time transplanted a partly artificial heart device, or hardware, in Vietnam. The doctors operated on a 39-year-old Vietnamese man who had suffered from dilated cardiomyopathy. The transplant was completed successfully after 5 hours, and the patient has recovered. The transplant has opened up opportunities for patients awaiting suitable organs to prolong their lives. Our weekly editions of Culture Watch this week will feature experimental music, a compositional tradition that arose in the mid-20th century. Here in Vietnam, the Six Tones, a contemporary Vietnamese-Swedish music group, have unveiled the first phase of a project named Arrival Cities, Hanoi, with an experimental concert. Let's now join me to experience the improvisation from different musical instruments and arts. And that is a part of the experimental concert named Arrival Cities, Hanoi by the Six Tones group. So the Vietnamese traditional musical instrument, the Western electronic musical instrument, video art, and the life story of a tuồng artist. How can these four completely different elements work well together? Well, let's see how the artists practice for it. The Six Tones are having their final rehearsal with Swedish composer Kent Olofsson a few hours before the show in Hanoi. Having toured and performed together since 2006, the four-member Six Tones have successfully hybridized traditional Vietnamese musical styles to accommodate the addition of Western stringed instruments.
One way to do it is to work more with electronics. So in later versions, there will also be processing on the acoustic instruments, and they will sometimes sound more electronic. So that's one way to do it. Yeah. But otherwise, it's just a matter of what kinds of materials you play, and then you just find a mix between the sound of these. Yeah.
This composition was written by Swedish composer Kent Olofsson, who had never been to Vietnam before or listened to traditional Vietnamese musical instruments such as zither and monochord.
It's my first time here, so it's also very inspiring to know the country and the culture better. So I had a lot of input from the Six Tones, from the group. So yeah, step by step, I think we have come up with a lot of ideas.
Video art featuring the life story of Lưu Ngọc Nam, an actor and costume maker in traditional tuồng theater, adds more color to the experimental concert. The footage was filmed by Swedish director and playwright Jörgen Davest just a week ago. The video captures the tuồng artist's homesickness and the tension between traditions that he experiences since he moved to Hanoi.
I moved to Hanoi decades ago when the country was still experiencing a tough time after the war. It was contrast with being at home where my parents took care of everything. There were times when I nearly quit my job, not because it was difficult, but because I was homesick.
Thực ra là một cái câu chuyện rất là hay và cảm động và rất là phù hợp với cái nội dung mà
Nam's life story is both interesting and touching. The story fits perfectly with our project and what we are researching. Arrival in Hanoi. The city is home to a large number of immigrants who have encountered a lot of difficulties living far from home.
After the show in Hanoi, the first version of Arrival Cities Hanoi will be premiered in Sweden in December this year. The final version will be a big installation work and triple concerto for 3 soloists, 6 video screens and an orchestra in 2016. Hoài Lương, Vietnam Television, Hanoi. And let's now check what's on in the cultural scene.
Russia's renowned conductor Alexander Polyaniko raises the baton at the Tchaikovsky concert held by the Vietnam National Symphony Orchestra, or VNSO, for 2 nights on June the 6th and the 7th. The concert takes place at the Hanoi Opera House with the participation of many outstanding artists from VNSO and renowned Japanese artist Tamura Hibiki. The Vietnam Musicians Association will organize a large-scale music festival focusing on seas and islands on June the 8th. The art performance is named To Be a Vietnamese for the second time. All proceeds from the ticket will be donated to forces who work offshore and their families. More than 120 Sofitel hotels, including those in Vietnam, will play host to the French multi-genre musical celebration La Fête de la Musique on June the 21st. La Fête de la Musique, also known as the worldwide celebration of music, began in France in 1982 and is now an annual event in many countries across the world.
And after our weekly editions of Culture Watch is the updated weather forecast. The weather forecast that transcribed our news bulletin for this hour. Simply log on to vtv4.vn for more updated news. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Hanoi time right here on VTV International.